Welcome everybody to another version of Seize Your Business, and we're actually going to start today with a little bit of a public service announcement. Both Kevin and myself are big fans of networking, and we've built up tremendous networks over the years. So if there's anything you need, if you have a business challenge you don't know what to do with, a business opportunity, you need a resource, you want to buy a business, you want to sell a business, we know people in all those areas, we know about all kind of opportunities, so please don't hesitate to reach out and call us, and we'll help you with whatever we can. I'm Jim Waszak. You can call me at 630-272-3895. And Kevin?
Kevin O'Flaherty Law, and you can call me at 630-324-6666. And we're joined today by our guest, Charles Hooker from Charles Home Inspection. And today we're going to talk about building a referral network. So Charles, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what you do before we dive into that?
Charles Hooker, Charles Home Inspection. My background is probably over 20 years in contract work and inspections, actually working on the industrial side in manufacturing of safety inspections there, and stepped out and opened my own business. It's Charles Home Inspection here in actually out of Naperville, but covering the western suburbs.
Okay, and where do your referrals come from, or where does your business come from?
My business comes from realtors. Realtors are my bread and butter of the business.
So you're not getting people just finding you on the internet. You need a warm referral from a realtor.
Warm referrals are realtors. People trust the realtors, and the realtors trust myself, and then that's where the relationship grows.
So how long have you been in business for?
Just about a year and a half.
Okay.
Just about a year and a half on my own.
Tell us, I always love talking to people with relatively new businesses to learn about the challenges they've gone through and the new ideas that they're coming up with to build their business, because that's when you really got to hustle and come up with good, fresh marketing and networking ideas. So what have you been doing to bring business in and to meet realtors?
The biggest part is networking up, joining the Chamber 360 with you guys, where I met you. Chambers are very big, meeting just tons of people. Going in real estate offices, just walking in, introducing yourself, just putting your face in front of them so they don't see a card or a website. They actually see the person to where they can gain a trust and relationship. And just constantly networking, like Jim said in the beginning, always out there meeting new people, meeting guys like yourselves, which is huge opportunities. Just meeting you guys.
Now let me ask you a question. I mean, on the surface, that sounds like a great strategy, but how do you distinguish yourself from other home inspectors? Because probably 90% of home inspectors, if not more, have kind of the same strategy. If I'm a realtor, okay, I got home inspector A, I got B, I got C, I got Charles. How do you endear yourself or distinguish
That's the
yourself?
hardest part. That is the part that probably every home inspector struggles with, because every real estate agent doesn't want a home inspector that come in as the alarmist, as they would say, to go in and just, really kill the deal for them. It's always, because that's the hard part of being, it's a fine line we have to walk. The biggest part that's the main part we find is the meeting them. It's getting them to use you once. It's more or less they have to see your work before they trust you. But getting them to take that first step is what's huge. Once you get with one realtor that has used you, and then they refer you, and they've liked you, that's where you really build your base as far as networking goes with them, and they refer down the road. They have to see your work. The hard part is just convincing them that you're the guy, and it does take probably 10 contacts with that person to get that one inspection. And once you do and they like you, then you're good. And that's how you refer. It's a hard process. It's not easy, which I've found starting my business as a home inspector.
Well, you know what? Let me ask you this question, because you made me think of something. Typically, the home inspector gets brought in by the buyer once they've got a contract on a home, right? So, what if you were to offer to realtors a free basic inspection of listings that they have, so they can anticipate what might come up when there is actually a sale? I wonder if that would maybe make them like.
I actually work with two realtors, which there's a fee involved, that I am doing pre-inspections. pre-sale inspections. Some I just do a roof and an attic, where that is, like we spoke before, that is a big part of the inspections. You find leaks or mold in the attics, and that is a process that a majority of home inspectors are trying to market. Getting most people, the seller, to pay that fee is hard for them to understand. But once they do it, then they realize they didn't have these things going in their house. But that is a good idea. As far as the free part, the inspections, it's kind of hard to offer free unless I've done walkthroughs for free for them, just to point out small things and not give the report, because it is a time-consuming process to do. Probably an average of 2 hours per home, depending on the size, and then another couple hours for your report. So yeah, that is something to look at.
So one of the challenges you probably have, and I have sometimes, is that when you're walking into a real estate office to meet with realtors, they've already got their home inspector, and you have to give them some reason to switch, some unique selling proposition. And the challenge is that the referral is a one-way street, typically, I assume, because you're not going to be sending, you can't say, hey, let's do business together, let me send you a bunch of referrals if you send me some back. So you've got to convince them just to send you referrals without any benefit of getting a lot of referrals back. Now, I'm sure that if you have the opportunity, you got a buddy selling your home, but that's the way it is with me and financial advisors, where I get a lot of my estate planning business from financial advisors, and when I can, I refer back to them, but it's not as easy for me to refer that direction. And actually, same for realtors for me. So how do you go to a realtor and convince them, hey, give me a try? Is it just, I'm the best, I've got the best expertise? Or how do you overcome that hurdle of not being able to say, I'll trade referrals with you?
The best thing that I found that, which maybe some guys do, was just to talk to them. Don't go in and tell how good I am, because the old saying, if you have to tell me how good you are, you're not that good. So my approach when I meet new ones, I ask them up front, say, do you already have someone? And then it's out of the way, and they don't have to, not feel like they're hurting your feelings or disrespecting you. And they say, yes, I have someone that I use on a regular basis. And my comeback is to say, hey, that's great. Here's my card. If he's ever on vacation, if he's too busy, give me a call. I'd be happy to fill in for you. And I understand, I'm sure he's a great inspector. I don't ever talk bad, and say, hey, and that has worked for me on several occasions where someone's been on vacation. They're like, hey, I've got this last minute inspection, and I've literally done it within 8 hours when I got a phone call and something's changed. And that does work. And I've actually, I would say I've got more business from that person. They've used me more so than their regular inspector after, just because the simple approach, just going in and just being their friend first, relationship. How are you? If you have an opening, here it is. I'm available for you. Give me a last minute call. I don't. That's no problem. And that has worked very well for me. Just keeping it honest. Don't put a lot out there. Just talk with them and just say, this is what I do. They know what home inspectors do. They know they know my job probably as well as I know my job. They've seen it all. So.
Something you said there was, building a friendship, and I think, there might be some referral sources that are stuck with their person. They've been with someone for 20 years, and no matter how close you get, they're probably not going to switch. But there's others where, you're not going to impress them with your expertise because, they've probably got an expert already. But if you find a way to get them, I talk about this a lot, but get them into your Vortex where you see them on a regular basis and have an excuse to, over the course of time, build a genuine friendship with somebody, eventually the majority of people will probably give you a shot down the road. Or when that time happens, when they have a problem with their existing home inspector, you're already, there in line for them.
And that's what it is. You just constantly, the old saying, out of sight, out of mind. If you're always there in front of them, making a contact at least once a month, every 2-3 weeks to those, and it does pay off. That's the hard part.
And you see, when you watch our show, you learn so much because you get to hear people use words like vortex. I mean, I can't remember the last time I used vortex in conversation. I'm not sure even know what it is. I hope it's something good. But, so we appreciate that from our listeners. So do you do home inspections and commercial properties too, or is that an entirely different animal?
It's an entirely different animal. I don't right now. In the startup phase, I'm concentrating on the one residential. I look to further down the road to step out into commercial. I want to get my base set first because a lot of realtors, some do both commercial and residential on some occasions. So if I can, I'll get my good referral base and my business established, as residential, and then I'll step to that next level.
Now, we love, using stories on our show. Can you tell us a story about a particular unusual inspection? I mean, did you ever find like a dead body or like a stash of cash or anything? Like what's sort of been some of your more interesting experiences?
No dead bodies. One of my most recent ones we spoke of last night, crawl space, which those are always lovely. Please, appreciate your home inspectors on that part of the inspection.
Okay.
Small crawl space. I had to go in head first. Within about 10 feet, got the flashlight, and sitting over in the corner is a nice little set of beady eyes looking at me.
Really?
So at that point, it's like, okay, it's time to step out. It ended up being a very large raccoon.
Really?
So yeah, and raccoons, I would have lost that fight in the crawl space.
Yeah, I'm sure. They have an advantage.
Yes.
So when you say you kind of do the door-to-door sales approach with realtors, and you just drop by their offices, what are some of the challenges associated with that and the hurdles that you have to overcome?
The biggest hurdle is there are a vast majority of home inspectors in this area. So you step into the office and right away, I've only done that a few times because I don't find it to be very beneficial, because once you step in and you open as I'm a Charles Home Inspection, you can almost see their face like, there's another home inspector.
Right. It's someone trying to sell them.
Trying to sell themselves. So I don't take that approach. The way I approach offices is once I get to a realtor and I have that relationship and they're using me on a steady basis, I'll say, hey, next time in your office, let me know. So I'll come in, talk to you, and walk through. And they're like, oh, yeah. And once you build that relationship part, they're more comfortable bringing you into the office and you take in the cookies or hand lotion or whatever to give to people with your marketing on it, your name. That is the biggest part, is entering the office, because there are so many. I believe they told that there is like one home inspector to 400 realtors. So the couple thousand home inspectors that are in this area, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. So the approach is just the relationship part first, not walking in the office. Here's my thing, and can I throw these in there, because they probably have 100 business cards already.
Sure.
So that is the biggest part, is just getting it in with one realtor to step into the office. The walking in really isn't beneficial as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and I think I'd like to talk about more of the first approach, or how you get the person at the top of the sales funnel. But before I forget, one of the things that I find really important is finding ways to add value other than giving referrals, and I've talked about this a lot on the show. And so title companies are another, to me, what I am to realtors, where I'm not going to be able to give realtors as much business. Title companies aren't going to give me a bunch of referrals, but they all want my business. Correct. Because the attorney's the one that gets to basically pick the title company. And they will drop by my office and want to meet with me, and sometimes they get in the door, sometimes they don't. But when they do get in the door, the ones that have a unique selling proposition that can show me, here's how I can benefit you, other than just doing great title work, are the ones that I really consider and bring to my real estate attorneys and say, hey, we should check this out. So, for example, there's a title company that puts on seminars and puts attorneys in front of realtors. So they host the seminar and they have an attorney speak and put everything together and have a bunch of realtors there. So they find a way to get me in front of the people that can give me referrals. And I think that's a really important thing, to have some way to add value other than just trading referrals and doing great work.
Yes, it is.
What we do is, that's one of the reasons I started the podcast in the first place, was to give my referral partners, hey, be a guest on my podcast. And it became much more than that.
Right.
But, networking groups that you can invite them to, seminars that you put on. Are there any other ways that you're thinking about adding value to people?
The referral part it's very hard for me on my side. I'm the last guy usually in the transaction. They already have yourself as the attorney. They have the bankers. What I try to do with some of the attorneys I've met on networking is like yourself and the mortgage brokers or the financial brokers. I try to introduce them to the realtors that I have. At least introduce them to where down the road, if same as mine, if they don't like their current person, they can use this different mortgage person. I try to include that and in the whole realm. But realtors are very hard because they have their set team. They don't like to step out of their team.
Sure.
So you mention it and say, I have a person, and they have their name, and if it ever comes up, then they're there. That's what I try to keep going as a networking group, as far as my real estate.
Finding
team,
ways to put people together.
Yeah, try to just connect them. Like, hey, I know a person here. I mean, and it's simple as actually of insurance gentlemen, some of the people at home insurance. I've made really good contacts with a few of those people that give me referrals to realtors, and I do the same for them. And it is really a good connection. It's easier for the realtor to just, hey, I know a friend that does really good home insurance or getting a home. This is something to look at. It's easier for them to bring it forward than me. So I kind of am the middleman and put people together, and that's worked in my favor. It has worked.
And that'll keep you in front of them too. I
Yes.
mean, that's they might not give you as many value points as if you'd given them a referral,
Yes.
but it's not nothing, and
Yes.
it's an excuse to reach out to them. Hey, and they know you're thinking about them,
Right.
and that still engenders some respect and desire to work.
Correct.
With you.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, what networking events? You say you meet a lot of people through networking. What are some good networking events? Types of events? What are some bad ones? What's worked for you? What hasn't?
Well, a lot of the chamber events are good. You have your B&I groups. I have a realtor that asked me to actually join that group. A little hesitant. I did a home inspection for a gentleman that was in the group, was an insurance man, and the realtor had joined it. And I was her regular inspector. And they're like, hey, come to lunch with us. You're going to like this group. And I've got in there and met tons of people through that. It's really been good for me. And just go to most of any networking event, Rotary meetings. I've spoken in front of a few Rotaries. Just getting out there and being visible in every networking event. The ones that don't work are the ones where they are a real estate function because there are 100 home inspectors or 50 to 200, and everyone's trying to sell themselves, and it really doesn't work because it's like walking in the office. They're like, oh, here's another home inspector walking up to us, talking to us. So it's very hard to do that aspect. It's on a group basis.
So for people who don't know what B&I groups are, they're a leads group, and a leads group is basically a group of professionals that are exclusive, industry exclusive, only one person per industry, and they meet, periodically with the purpose of exchanging referrals. So maybe if you can't give the realtor in the group business, you might be able to give someone else in the group business, but you can get business from the realtor in the group.
Works
So
together.
it resolves the problem of like the one-way supply chain of referrals a little bit.
Exactly.
So you've had a good experience with leads groups?
I have. With that one, I have, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, some not so much. It's just, I think some people get in there, they're complacent, and it's, give me leads, and they don't want to return the favor, but you have to return the favor in the business.
Charles, I was thinking, I don't know if this would work, but I know there's an organization, it's actually just down the street, called Main Street Organization of Realtors. And they put on classes for realtors. Now, I don't know if you have to be a realtor to go to the classes. That may be a problem. But if you could go to some of their classes and just say, I just want to learn all I can about the real estate because I'm a home inspector. Now you're the only inspector with a group of 15, 20 realtors.
Yes, I have been to that just down the road a few times. You have to be a realtor to go to those. It's like the realtor group, and you're kind of an associate member, to where basically there are attorneys, mortgage people, and it's basically the underlying group, and the realtors have their own. And to get into that, it's very hard to have a meeting in front of them. It's pretty much the group is they have networking events for the realtors. This group built up of the attorneys, title people, they're every aspect of a home, builders, contractors.
Right.
They're in there basically, not really as a lead group, but they're a support for them, and you network for them, and you put on things and pay for things for them, and they attend. And then you network with them. That's how that works. And that's a good avenue, but it's also, it's almost flooded with the same people that go to those. Those are, they're good. You have to go to those. That's one of those things that you just have to grin and bear it and go to those sometimes as a single, entrepreneur.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes.
One thought might be to send out a LinkedIn message and just ask your, database of people in LinkedIn. Do you know any realtors you could introduce me to?
Yeah, I've done that, and believe it or not, Facebook media has been huge. I didn't have a page, but just 5-6 years ago, my children actually got me a page. But up here, realtors use that. They'll post a listing, and I'm friends with them, and you share the picture. They see that you've shared the picture. People that I work with see they've shared the picture, and they appreciate that when you simply just hitting share and you share a picture. It goes, across the web to everyone. Facebook is really huge. It's something I didn't think would be good for home inspection. I've posted 2 things a couple times, and I just right now have a personal page with my name on top. I'm getting ready to do a business page. Some of the dangerous things I found, I've posted and commented. This is unsafe. This is the importance. I don't promote myself. I'm just like, this is very important. This is the importance of a home inspection. If you need a good one, give me a call. And I've had realtors call me and say, hey, I saw your post. Never knew that person, and apparently a couple people shared it. They saw it, and they're like, hey, I need a good home inspector, and they've used me ever since. Just something simple as that has been really huge. I found more as far as the media side, social media. Facebook has been a good one.
Well, Charles, if someone needs a home inspector and would like to reach out to you, if there might be a realtor listening that would like to work with you, how can they reach you?
You can reach me at my email is charles@charleshomeinspection.com. My phone number is 630-442-4873. Just give me a call anytime. I'd be happy to talk to you.
All right, Jim, how can people reach you?
630-272-3895.
You can call me to schedule a free initial consultation at 630-324-6666. I also do a podcast about legal issues called learn-about-law.com. It's the Learn About Law podcast. And you can check out, I think we're up to pushing 90 podcasts and videos for Seize Your Business at seizeyourbusiness.com. And we also are streaming on internet radio. So you can find us basically everywhere now. So please check us out. Thanks for listening.
And lastly, if you would like to be on our show, or you know somebody who would, we always appreciate the recommendations and new people to talk to. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Charles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.